If he becomes a perfect master, then a perfect master is also called a kutub. And he lives the life of God like the salik, but he also uses his infinite power, knowledge and bliss. A salik, though he has the powers, he cannot utilize the powers. He has no authority to utilize the powers. And though a salik has no powers, yet he is called a kamil because he can bring one person up to his state. A akmil, he can bring number of people to his state. And mukamil, where he can bring many, many people up to his own state. Even a majzub cannot help anyone on his own. But those who serve him, they get benefit from the person. And therefore, a majzub is included in the spiritual hierarchy, but the salik is not. Anyone serving a salik does not get any spiritual benefit. The majzub also on his own cannot give spiritual benefit, but unconsciously he helps people who serve him. Now, let us go to the terminology in the chapter on the evolution of consciousness. God was in the beyond state. We can call him as everything. In it, nothing, the real nothing was latent, and this escaped from the Om point. And with it escaped the infinite triune nature of God, the power, knowledge and bliss. This expanded ad infinitum and became the nothingness. This nothingness is our creation, which we call as everything. It is the false everything. This has come out of the nothing. So it is really nothing. So when the involution occurs, and this nothingness or this false world disappears, then in the first state of fana, we experience the real nothing. And this is followed immediately by the I am God state. So, the first state is fana, and the next state is fanafila, or nirvan and nirvikalpa. These are the two states of the seventh plane. On the seventh plane, all the sanskars are wiped out, the gross, subtle and the mental worlds are finished, and the person is only conscious in the nirvikalpa state of I am God. Then, if he lives through and goes further, he becomes a salik. So, in the Majzubiyat state, or the state 2 of seventh plane, God in the A state gets an answer to his question, who am I, as I am God. The drop becomes the ocean, experiencing power, knowledge and bliss. If his body is retained, then he goes to the 2C state, where he becomes a Sadguru or a perfect master. So now we have seen the different terminologies. The original everything, the original nothing, which escaped, became the false everything or the nothingness, and this disappears when involution is complete. And the first experiences of the original real nothing followed immediately by the experience of I am God or the real everything. Now we come to the spiritual hierarchy. Those who are in the spiritual hierarchy, they control the affairs of the whole world. As Baba has said, each age consists of 65 to 125 years, which is called a kal, and 11 such ages make up a yuga or a cycle. That is 700 to 1400 years. And in each age there are 5 perfect masters, and in the 11th age the avatar comes and therefore makes a total of 56. This 56 is always constant. The Majzubs are also 56 always in the 11 ages. In the first age there are only 7, but 4 of them drop their body immediately and therefore only 3 remain. In the second age again there are only 3. Alternately there are 7 and 3, 7 and 3, and in the last age there are 6 Majzubs, and therefore making a total of 56. The 5 perfect masters in each age make up 55 perfect masters in one cycle, and with the avatar in the last cycle they make up 56. So there are always 56 perfect masters, always 56 Majzubs in one cycle. Baba said that the spiritual hierarchy contains 7,000 people. On the first plane and between the different planes are 5,600. On the second plane are 666. On the third plane are 558. Then on the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, 56 in each. On the seventh plane, 3 Majzups and 5 perfect masters, making a total of 7,000. This is the spiritual hierarchy. These 5 perfect masters work for the upliftment of the world. Those who serve the Majzups get benefit. The Saliks cannot give any benefit, and therefore, since they have no authority to use their power, they are not included in the spiritual hierarchy. So out of the 56 God-realized persons, 3 are Majzups and 5 are perfect masters, leaving 48 Saliks. When one of the perfect masters drops his body, one of the Saliks becomes a perfect master. Now let us see to this term. Baba has always said that he is the Ancient One. What does the Ancient One mean? Who is the Ancient One? Baba says that the first soul who is created, he passes through the whole evolutionary process, the reincarnation process and the involution process, and finally comes to the 6th plane. Of course, when the first soul passes through all these processes, there are not so many species as there are now. I've told you already, in each kingdom there are 84 lakhs of species. But when the first soul was created, there were not so many. There were very few. And therefore that first soul passed through the different evolution, reincarnation, and involution processes very rapidly. But when he comes to the 6th plane, as I've told you, without the help of a perfect master, no one can jump from the 6th to the 7th plane. So how does this first soul become God-realized, or how does he come to the 7th plane? Baba says that in state 2B, who is the avatar, who is the Nirgun Nirakar, state of God, who is God-realized, that avatar, he descends and picks this first soul up and makes him a Sadguru. So, the first Sadguru and the first avatar are one, because it is the avatar in state 2B who has come down to help this soul, this drop soul, and has taken him up to the 7th plane of a perfect master. So, the first avatar and the first perfect master are one and the same. They cannot be different. Now remember that a perfect master, after he drops his body, never comes back again. But this Ancient One, that is the first drop soul who became the perfect master, it is only he, this is the only God-realized soul who keeps on coming at the end of a cycle for the upliftment of humanity. So, no other God-realized souls can ever come back again. If some saint in India or anywhere abroad says that he is Sai Baba, come back again, it is never true. It cannot be true unless Sai Baba himself was not a perfect master. A perfect master can never come back again. Now, the perfect master has a circle of members. There are 12 members in his circle and 2 women, making a total of 14. How does the perfect master select these disciples of his? So now Baba gives a beautiful example. Supposing there is a traveler who has started from his hometown, and with him number of people have also started thinking that they will accompany this traveler right up to the destination. So they all go along, but slowly and slowly some of them drop away, and then the others drop away, and finally at the end of this fellow's journey, when he comes up to a river, by then most of them or almost everyone has dropped away. So now he has come to a river and he has to cross to the other side. How can he cross to the other side? Unless some help comes from the opposite side of the river. So the perfect master, he comes from the other side. The river is the gap between the 6th and the 7th planes. So a perfect master from the other end has to come here, pick this man up and take him to the 7th plane. And after bringing him down to body consciousness and world consciousness, he has to drop him back again on this side of the world, or this side of the river. So, when the perfect master comes back on this side, on the side that he had started of the river, that is, he starts walking, and to give you in that example of the traveler, those who left him last on the travel, he picks them up and makes them his circle members. So, the perfect master's circle is selected from those people who have been with him all through the travail until he came to God realization. And out of these 12 plus 2 women, he gives his spiritual charge or his God realization to only one person who is called the spiritual chargeman. So, that is about the perfect master. Now about the avatar. The avatar has 10 circles, each of 12, making a total of 120, plus 2 women extra in the innermost circle. Now the avatar is directly God become man. The perfect master has selected his circle members from those who had close association with him during his travail up to the 7th plane. But the avatar is coming directly. So how does he select and choose his members? Baba says that those who have been very sincere and seekers of truth in the world, the avatar selects them. Then that person may be in the same country as the avatar or in another country, but he selects them and he brings them close to him. So, in the innermost circle there are 2 extra women. Now, as I've told you, the perfect master, only one person gets God realization, and he is given the chargemanship of the perfect master. Baba said that all the 12 members of the innermost circle of the avatar, remember, the avatar has 10 circles of 12 each, so making a total of 120, and 2 extra females in the innermost circle, making a total of 122. So, all those in the first circle, they get God realization either in this life or within 100 to 200 years from the manifestation of the avatar. The rest of the 108, they also get God realization, but after a few more years or births, but definitely before the avatar comes back again. So, if the cycle is of 700 or 1400 years, then all those 108 people will get God realization before the avatar comes back for the second time. Now, besides the circle members, the perfect master has also some disciples. So, who are these disciples? Baba said there are 2 types of disciples of the perfect master, the elect and the select. The avatar never has disciples, he only has lovers. So, who are these elect disciples of the perfect master? Baba said that these are also people who have had connection with him during his travail to the God realization state. So these people who have had close association with him, they become his elect devotees or disciples. Then who are the select? The select ones are those who have really served that perfect master very sincerely and lovingly. So from them he selects a few, and these become his select disciples. Now, the avatar has only lovers, and some of his lovers can also get God realization by the grace of the avatar. So it is not only the circle members who get God realization, but the avatar's lovers also can get God realization. Now, as I have said, the avatar comes only in the 11th age. The 5 perfect masters bring him down. And as you know, there are always 5 perfect masters in each age, and 11 such ages make up a cycle. So, the avatar always comes in the last age. When he comes, there would be a terrible disturbance in the world, because the avatar is absolutely pure God in human form. So therefore, the 5 perfect masters, as soon as he is born, they put upon him a veil, so that he doesn't know that he is the avatar. And no person can live without sanskaras. No person can live without sanskaras. So avatar also is no exception to this. So the 5 perfect masters give him what is called the Vijnani sanskars, by which the avatar goes to school, he goes to eat his food, and he plays about and everything like that. So these are the Vijnani sanskars given by the 5 perfect masters. But when the right time comes, the veil is removed, and then he begins his work. Now, even when he begins his work, he must have certain sanskaras, because without sanskaras his body would drop. So now the perfect master is giving what is called the yoga sanskaras. What are these yoga sanskaras? I will tell you a little later when we talk of sanskaras. So, each avatar has a Sadguru who will remove the veil and who will also give him God realization. John the Baptist removed the veil of Christ. For Buddha, it was an old lady. And for Muhammad, it was a Jewish rabbi. These people removed the veil and they began to function as the avatar. Each avatar works from a different plane. He stations himself on a different plane. Jesus stationed himself on the 4th plane, Buddha on the 5th plane, and Muhammad on the 7th plane. And therefore, Buddha and Muhammad never did any miracles because they were not on the first 4 planes. But Jesus performed a lot of miracles because he had stationed himself on the 4th plane. Baba also had 5 perfect masters. Babajan removed the veil, but to come down to human consciousness he had to take the help of 4 other perfect masters. So these perfect masters can be of 3 types. The Kalandar, he is always naked and moving about, just like Totapuri, the Sadguru or the master of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He is always on the move. Then the second type is Khwaja, who never move about. They are always at one place, like Upasani Maharaj and Babajan. And the third type of perfect master is a Gauss type of perfect master. He removes his limbs at bedtime or in the night time and then goes to sleep. I remember a story about one Abdul Chacha. When I had visited Shirdi in 1948, that was my first visit, this Abdul Chacha was a blind man sitting there, and he told us this story. He said that he was the night watchman for Shirdi Sai Baba, and Sai Baba used to retire in the Chowdi to go to sleep, and he had given him orders never to look inside. But after many years of service, Abdul one day, the curiosity got the better of him, and he looked inside the room, and what did he see? He saw that Sai Baba was lying on a small strip of cloth, like a ribbon, and in the air, suspended in the air between the 2 walls, and only his body was there, but his hands and legs were lying on the floor. Seeing this, Abdul Chacha became blind. So, this is the story of Abdul Chacha, and Sai Baba was of the Gauss type. Now, how can we know that a certain person is a perfect master? There are so many false saints in India today and abroad that it is very, very difficult to know who is really a God-realized person. So Baba has given us certain tips to find out whether the person is God-realized. One who is a perfect master, as soon as you go in his presence, you will feel infinite bliss. You will forget the world, you will forget your worries, you will forget your wife, children, everything. That infinite bliss which you feel in the presence of anyone, know it that he is a perfect master. Then the second point is, the perfect master never differentiates between the rich and the poor, the beautiful and the ugly. He sees everyone as his own self, and therefore he can never differentiate different people. So, one who is not a perfect person will definitely, by his actions, by his talks, differentiate the different people who are coming to him. And the third one is that a perfect master descends to the level of the person he is talking to. And a false Sadguru or a false master, he doesn't know the level of the person who's talking to him, and therefore he can talk from a higher level and which might go over the heads of that person. So, the third point to find out is whether he is a real perfect master is whether he can come down to your level and talk to you. I remember with Baba, those who were illiterate would go to Baba. Baba would ask them, how many children have you had? Have you had your lunch or dinner? How did you come here? Did your travel be alright and all that? But to his classic lovers, he would ask, or intellectual lovers, he would ask all sorts of other questions. So he would come down to that person's level. I remember Niranjan Singh of Delhi, a highly intellectual man and principal of a college. He used to talk on a very high level, intellectual level, with Baba, and Baba would give him replies. And all of these talks between the two have been recorded in the book called The Everything and the Nothing. Now,
we are talking about the powers of a perfect master, of people on the planes, and of the avatar. As I have already told you, on the first plane, he can work small miracles. On the second, bigger miracles. On the third plane, he can perform grand miracles like giving sight to the blind, giving limbs to the people who don't have limbs. And on the third plane, these people, some of them are called Abdals. And these Abdals, they do the work for the perfect masters. If you remember the life story of Baba's father, Shiryaji, when he was lost in the desert of Kutch, and he was dying of thirst and the heat of the desert. At that time one Abdal, an agent, came and gave him water. A male Abdal never changes into a female Abdal. So the person on the third plane can perform great miracles. On the fourth plane, of course, he can create a new world. I've already told you that. So these are the powers of the people on the four planes. The fifth plane and the sixth plane man cannot perform miracles, but they can control the thoughts and the feelings of people on the subtle world and thereby perform miracles. Now we come to certain people called tantrics. Who are these tantrics? These tantrics are people who sit inside a circle for 40 days and 40 nights repeating certain mantras and thereby gaining certain powers, like levitation, rising several feet from the ground in meditation, or making their body very light or very heavy, or dematerializing their body, or staying underground without any air. So these people can do a lot of these tricks, and these are called the superior occult powers. But there are certain people who have got what is called the lower occult powers. Now who are these people? These people have been very good people in their past lives, God-loving, and these people also get certain powers in this life, like clairaudience. These people who got these powers can hear people from the astral world. What he has to do is remove his subtle body and let somebody from the astral world come into his body, and then that person, that soul who has entered his body will do the needful or do the work. So these people are called clairaudience. Now there is something called clairvoyant also. These people are very pure souls, and therefore they can see into the future events that will happen into the world, like Nostradamus and Madame Blavatsky. Now, if these people do not misuse their powers in this lifetime, then in the next birth they will get the superior occult powers like the tantrics. The perfect masters have also got powers, and they always use it for the betterment of the world. They can give godization also. But a perfect master works on a limited scale, while the avatar can give godization to the whole world. He works on a universal scale. Now, what happens is, an avatar descends. When he comes, we see him as a man. But Baba has said that when the avatar comes, he comes not only in this human form, but in each of the lower kingdoms, like stone, metal, vegetable, fish, birds, animals, etc. In each of these lower kingdoms, the avatar comes. And the work that he does in these kingdoms is that when he comes in that particular kingdom, he helps souls, the drop souls who are in the last species of that kingdom, to advance further. Like, for example, vegetable to stone, metal, vegetable, fish, or insects, and then fish. So, supposing the avatar comes, he helps the last species of vegetables to become insects, the last species of insects to become fishes, the last species of fishes to become birds. So this is how the jump from one kingdom to another is given only when the avatar comes. this work which he does, we do not see with our eyes and we don't experience it also. We only see him as God in human form. So this is the working of the avatar. He works for human beings on a universal level, and at the same time he works for all the different kingdoms before the human form and pushes them up. Now, the perfect master has got the powers to bring any one soul that he wishes up to his level of consciousness, and such a person is called a Fanafi Sheikh. The avatar also has the same power to bring any one soul up to his status of avataric consciousness, and he is called a Fanafi Rasul. But the Fanafi Sheikh and the Fanafi Rasul, though they are on the same level as the perfect master or as the avatar, they are non-functioning. And as soon as the perfect master drops his body, the Fanafi Sheikh also drops his body, and as soon as the avatar drops his body, the Fanafi Rasul also drops his body. So these are the different powers of the people on the planes, and of the perfect masters, and of the avatar. Now we come to mukti, or liberation. Any good person who is God-fearing, God-loving, and when he dies, he gets liberated. He gets liberated means he enjoys infinite bliss. And this is called ordinary mukti, or liberation. There are another type of people who are called Vidhemuks. These are the Majzubs. Though they are alive, yet they are mukt, means they have gone beyond the cycle of births and deaths, and they are still living. The first type was, they have dropped their bodies. The second type, the Majzubs, have retained their bodies, and yet they are muks, or liberated souls. The third type are the Jivan Muks. The Jivan Muks are the Saliks, who enjoy the I am God state and also consciousness of the world and live the life of God in as human beings. That is Vidhemuks. Then the Paramuks. The Paramuks are the perfect masters who enjoy the power, bliss and the knowledge and use them for the betterment of others. Now we come to the Samadhis. There are different types of Samadhis. The Yogic Samadhi, it is a temporary thing. It's like the Tantric Samadhi also, which is also temporary. And then he comes back to the same level. But there is what is called the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That is what the Majzub enjoys, the I am God state. Only thought that I am God. Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa is no other thought but I am God. And then there is the third type of samadhi called the Sahaj Samadhi, means a spontaneous samadhi. Though he is moving about, talking about, doing everything, the perfect master is always in a state of Sahaj Samadhi. Without any effort, he is in Samadhi. Now we come to Sanskaras. The whole of God speaks is mainly due to, the whole evolution, the involution, everything depends only on sanskaras. Baba says that in the beyond state, there are no sanskaras and therefore there was no consciousness. Now, in the human beings, there are lots of sanskaras. But in the lower strata, in the lower kingdoms, Baba says that the animals, the plants, they all have natural sanskaras. Natural sanskaras are again like, as the evolution goes on, sanskaras keep accumulating in a natural way because they have no minds and therefore they cannot think. They have only instincts, as I've told you already. So these sanskaras gained in the lower kingdoms are natural sanskaras. But in the human form there are unnatural sanskaras. Now what are these unnatural sanskaras? When a person murders somebody or commits suicide or cheats somebody or promiscuity or stealing or jealousy or hatred, these are all unnatural sanskaras which you don't find in the lower species of animals or birds or any of them. So these are the ones, these unnatural sanskaras are the ones which are very, very difficult to remove. And Baba said that in 1 second the mind gains 10 million sanskaras. So when the avatar comes, he tries to remove these unnatural sanskaras because they are the ones that are difficult to remove. The natural sanskaras will go away during the involution process. Now, no one can live without sanskaras. I've already told you that. So, on the 7th plane, when all the sanskaras are wiped out, that person he merges into God because he cannot live any longer. But if he is destined to live further, then he has to have certain sanskaras. Otherwise, without that, he cannot live. The avatar also, as I've already told you, has, during his childhood, the Vijnani sanskaras, by which he eats, drinks, goes to school, college, etc. So these Vijnani sanskaras, which are given to him, the avatar, by the perfect masters, these help him to live a normal life. But then when the right time comes, the veil is removed, and then he works for the betterment of the world. The avatar is then given what is called the Yoga sanskaras. And his body is now not an ordinary body, but what is called the Mahakaran Sharir. And he has a universal mind. Now, these are divine sanskaras with which he works. They are not at all binding to him. When we go to Baba, and Baba loves us, he pats us, and he shows his love to us, actually what he is doing is, he is giving his yoga sanskaras to us, by which, or with the help of which, our unnatural sanskaras are being removed. So, Baba says that the original whim was an infinite soundless sound. The whim of who am I was an infinite sound, but it was a soundless sound. Now, your sanskaras give rise to thoughts. These thoughts give rise to desires, and these desires give rise to words. Sanskaras are therefore the cause of sound. When the avatar comes, he brings that soundless sound with him, and he wants to give it to us. But we cannot hear that soundless sound because we are still hearing all the gross, subtle and the mental sounds. So unless all these sounds are removed, we cannot hear the soundless sound that the avatar has brought for us. Now these are all false sounds that we are hearing, and these are due to our sanskaras. So unless the sanskaras are removed, we cannot hear the soundless sound. So now what happens on the seventh plane is that all the sanskaras are wiped out, and therefore we can hear the soundless sound that the avatar has brought with him. That soundless sound is, I am God. And this happens in the state of Fanafila, or the Madzubiyat state. So remember, the whole world is a play of sanskaras, and unless the false sounds due to our sanskaras are removed, and there is manonash or destruction of the mind completely, one cannot hear the soundless sound that the avatar has brought. And with this soundless sound, he destroys all our other sounds, the false sounds, the finite sounds, and wants to give us the soundless sound which he has brought with him. Now we come to another point, that is renunciation. Renunciation, Baba says in God Speaks, can be external and internal. External means giving up the worldly things and becoming a sadhu or a sannyasi. But Baba says, as Baba lovers, we should never do this. In fact, when one of the Baba lovers telegrammed to Baba that he wanted to renounce the world, Baba replied to him by telegram saying, renounce the idea of renouncing the world. So Baba lovers should never have this external renunciation, means leaving the world and relieving the responsibilities that they are given. But he should have internal renunciation, which means control of desires. Staying in the world and yet controlling the desires, and not giving up to each desire that he gets in his mind. Now, renunciation can be temporary. Supposing somebody dies in your family and you take him to the burial ground or to the burning ground, over there you get a sort of a renunciation which is temporary, and is called vaitag. It is a temporary disgust for the world. And Baba said that this vaitag is very temporary. Once you come back again, after a few days, that is washed up from your mind, and again you begin your same life as before. So vaitag should not be mistaken for renunciation or real vairag. Baba also has mentioned in God Speaks, behoshi and bekhudi. Behoshi means becoming unconscious. You can become unconscious due to drugs or in deep sleep. So Baba says that is not the right thing to do. one should go into the stage of bekhudi. What is bekhudi? It means forgetfulness. Forgetfulness does not mean that you have to forget your family and your responsibilities and give up the world and all that. No. It means non-reaction to favorable and or adverse circumstances. The ups and downs of life that come forward, these things should not affect you, should not touch you at all. There should be no reaction on you at all. This is called positive forgetfulness. Suppose a person in the family dies, and yet it doesn't disturb you at all and you're constantly in communion with Baba. Then you can say that you're in positive forgetfulness. But somebody dies in your family and you take a sleeping pill and go to sleep for a few hours in order to forget that event, that is negative forgetfulness. So we should not go into negative forgetfulness but positive forgetfulness, where the affairs of the world don't touch you. You don't react to the favorable or the adverse circumstances of the world. Now we come to what is called the gross, subtle and the mental consciousness. Those who are gross conscious are only gross conscious. Those who are subtle conscious are only subtle conscious. And those who are mental conscious are mental conscious. They are not conscious of the other worlds at all. So, this is given in the first chapter of God Speaks. Now, though we are in the gross world and we do everything in this world, when we see somebody in the subtle world, a pilgrim in the subtle world, he also eats, drinks, does everything. How does he do things if he is not conscious of the gross world? As I said, the subtle world person or the pilgrim is not conscious of the gross or the mental world. But then how does he eat, drink and go about the world? And how does he talk to you also? Baba has explained that in a beautiful way. Baba says that those on the subtle world, though they are not conscious of the gross bodies, of the gross people in this gross world, yet they are conscious only of the subtle bodies of those people who are in the world. So he knows that there is a person near him, and he can talk to him from the subtle level. Similarly, the mental world person, a person who is conscious only of the mental world, he also is not conscious of the gross or the subtle bodies of people, but he is conscious of the mind of people, of those who are in the gross and the subtle worlds, and therefore he knows that there is somebody over there. So, how does he talk to them? How does he eat, drink? Baba gives a beautiful example. He says, you've heard of people or students or men or women doing night walking. Night walking is when people go to sleep, and in their sleep they get up and they move about and they eat, they drink, or they commit thefts or do everything like that. And yet in the morning when they get up and you ask them, did you do this in the night time? They say, no, we haven't done anything like this. So, though these night walkers, they do everything in their sleep, they are yet sleeping, but they are not conscious of what they are doing. Similarly, people in the subtle world and the mental world, they also eat, drink, everything like us, yet they are not conscious of what they are doing.